top. I'm Alex Beattie, divorce prep coach, founder of the Divorce Planner. I love these conversations I have all across my social media platforms with different professionals whose tools and specialty can really help you as you're navigating a separation or a divorce. Today's guest is one of my favorite, hands down, Coach Leah Marie. She can be found on all social media, either through @mindfullyready or @Leah Marie. She specializes in empowering women during and after divorce, specifically moms. And she has a wonderful group with Samantha Boss, who is another coach out there who is killing it. And she is an expert in all things parenting plans and high conflict divorce cases, as they both are. And they have a program called The Next Chapter, which is a monthly membership program for women. I highly encourage you to check it out. And with that, Leah Marie, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm excited to hang out for a little bit.
Yes. So I have a couple of questions. I already got one dropped in the comments, which I will get to. Okay. But I would love for people to know, if you can't stick around for the whole conversation, you can drop a question in, and this conversation will immediately be posted on my Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and my blog immediately after, so you can catch up later. But I'm going to kind of dive in. So when you're coming out of a long-term relationship as a parent, what are some of the most common hurdles that you see divorced moms face as they start their lives again as a single person?
Yeah. Well, guilt is a very real thing, that mom guilt, whether it's guilt for the divorce, guilt that you even married or had children with this person to begin with, if they're more of a high conflict person, guilt for, you're supposed to put yourself first, but when it comes down to actually making that happen and taking those actionable steps, sometimes that self-care can even bring guilt, right? When you're trying to focus on yourself and do the healing. So I see that a lot. But also it's really tough to be away from your kids in the beginning, right? I think, like you and I, we've been doing it for years now. I've been co-parenting for, I think 11 or 12 years at this point. So at this point, when my daughter leaves, I'm in a pretty good spot. I've learned how to take advantage of the time, make the most of the time. But I think early on, that's really tough. It's hard to be away from your kids because nobody thinks that that's what they're signing up for when they have kids, right? They don't anticipate only seeing them a certain percentage of the time. And so that can be really rough. And that's definitely something that you have to be patient with yourself. And I think you got to feel your feelings. It's not something that you can just kind of skip over. It's something you really have to address and deal with. But with time, the best thing you can do is just start to become more proactive, right? Like, so if you know that your kids are going to be gone on so-and-so weekend, don't wait until they're out the door to then kind of sit and go, okay, what am I supposed to do with myself, for these days when they're gone? Be proactive. That's when you make plans with girlfriends. That's when maybe you can set aside some stuff that you had to do around the house or yard work or things like that. Maybe some books you were looking forward to reading or podcasts, or maybe you wanted to book your yoga class, or go something like that you can do for yourself so that you have things to pass the time when your kids are away. But also it's stuff that helps with your personal development. It helps with your healing. It's like you can use that time to your advantage to start focusing on yourself and doing the things you need to so that you can heal and just start to feel better.
You give so much in that answer that I think the biggest headline in that is that guilt, right? So I think that comes up for a lot of people, women specifically, who are going through a divorce and have kids. And by the way, you don't even have to go through a divorce to feel that mom guilt. So everything you're talking about really applies to somebody going through a separation and or a divorce or not. I love being able to use this transition time as a time for deep introspection. That's something I work with clients on, and it kind of to set their North Star, because I get them set up and then, off on their, but even as a mom, I think you hit on something that a lot of people don't anticipate, which are the big feelings that come up once you actually have to put that new plan into place, and whether it's 50-50 with your spouse now co-parenting, or maybe it's 80-20, no matter what, it still stings.
Yeah.
It can sneak up on you, that kind of sadness and the guilt, because as you said, you didn't sign up for this in transitioning households. And what am I supposed to do? Your advice, feel your feelings, I think really hits it on the head, as well as make sure to plan your time in advance and use it for yourself.
Yeah.
Because anytime, I know that you talk about this a lot, but anytime that you are filling your own cup, you become a better mom.
100%. Yeah. And that's really the mindset shift that's most important, is you go from feeling bad doing that because you feel like you're not dedicating 100% of your time and your attention to your kids. But you have to realize, no matter how hard you try, if you are not meeting your own needs, your kids are not getting the best version of you. And that's just the
Yeah.
truth. So you really do have to learn how to figure out what your needs are, learn how to meet those needs, and then really take action and make sure you're taking responsibility for that, and holding yourself accountable to do that. And when you do that, you really will show up as a better version of yourself. And you're setting that example for your kids, right?
Yeah.
Our job as moms is to raise strong, independent, healthy humans. And so you're setting the example. You don't want your kids to learn from you that you should never address your own needs and not set boundaries and don't pay attention to yourself or make yourself feel good and make sure everyone else comes first, right? Like that's a bad example to be setting for them. So everything that you're doing, they're watching. So teach them those healthy coping mechanisms. Show them what it's like to be a healthy, well-rounded, strong person who advocates for themselves and sets boundaries and respects themselves.
Absolutely, 100%. I thought my head was going to fall off my neck. I was nodding so much. Like, you know, the whole process of going through a big life change like a divorce is an opportunity to model behavior. We're basically,
Yeah.
if you're a parent, I have just now embraced this idea that what parenting is for me is we are human Sherpas. We are basically modeling behavior that our kids are going to absorb, that will build a foundation to teach them how to get through tough times, how to handle
100%.
times, how to communicate, how to treat people, so on and so forth. So I think you really nailed it on the head with that. I love that. And the other thing that you just shared that just makes me so happy is it's a mindset shift. And that doesn't happen overnight. That takes practice.
Yeah.
So make sure to be kind to yourself as you're doing it. You know, these narratives that we have in our head, these expectations, whether they are societal, whether they are familial, whether they are self-imposed, can really kind of seep into every pore of us, and sometimes can even act as a hindrance in our own personal growth, because we think we're supposed to do something a certain
Yeah.
way. We think we're supposed to live life a certain way. And the truth is, there is no wrong way to be as a family dynamic, or have a life experience a certain way is more meaningful than the other. They're all of value, and you have the opportunity to create what the narrative is. And if you're going to see things in a way of, there's a difference between feeling your feelings and then letting your feelings guide you. Those are two
Yes.
separate.
Yes. Yeah. And that's why I love to talk about mindfulness with my clients. I mean, that's something that absolutely changed my life after my second divorce, because it helps you cultivate self-awareness. And when you have that awareness, that's what empowers you to make different choices, right? Because if you don't know what's going on, then you can't change anything. You just know you feel bad and you don't like that, right? So like every time you're getting those tough emotions, just remind yourself, okay, I know that this feeling, I could trace this back to a thought that I'm having. So like, what conversations am I having about myself or about my ex or about my kids? What am I having in my mind, and how can I change this perspective to give me a different feeling?
Which is a beautiful segue into my next question, which would be like, what's the simplest thing that a divorcing or divorced mom can do to immediately improve their emotional well-being?
Okay, so two things. Number one, journaling. Don't sleep on that. Like, some of you might feel like, oh, that's just like so cliche, and like I hear it all the time. But truly, I mean, that's a super simple easily accessible, free way for you to start cultivating that self-awareness. It helps you track your patterns, and it helps you kind of make sense of things that maybe when it's all jumbled in your brain, you can't really make sense of, but when you get it on paper, you can see it more clearly. And also, one of the most important things that journaling does is it tracks your progress. I hear so many times, I just thought I should be further along. Why am I still upset? Why is this still bothering me? Right? So when you're journaling, you can go back and it's almost a reminder of, oh, I remember when I used to feel that way and I don't anymore, or that's not something that I'm really engaging in anymore. And so it's like I have done things, I have accomplished things, I have made progress. So important is that mindfulness piece. So one of the simplest things that you can start doing to get more in touch with yourself and your emotions and your thoughts, so that, like you said, your emotions aren't just like taking you for a ride, is just some breathing. Just set aside like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes of your day. You don't even have to do it every single day to start if that seems a little bit too much for you or too intimidating. But just sit down and exist. Just get into your body, right? So that can look like just paying attention to your breath. It's as easy as that. Because all of the times we're so emotionally reactive, it's because we're caught up in what's going on up here. So you can get out of there by getting into your physical body. So just paying attention to the air that's moving through your nose, filling up your belly and your chest, and then coming out of your mouth. When you do that, that's like a bicep curl for your brain. That's an exercise. And then that translates into, okay, I can be more observant to what's going on, right? I can observe my thoughts. I can observe my emotions without being caught up in them. And that's how you can start to recognize your triggers. And then that's how you can start shifting your perspective and making different choices. And so it's like, it's all a part of that process, but it all starts with just mindfulness, just getting out of your thoughts, getting into your body and making that a practice.
Fantastic. Agree 100%. On the journaling side, I think what I have found working with clients is sometimes they feel intimidated, right?
Yes.
And it's a blank page that's staring at them. And this idea that everybody else knows how to do this and I don't. Start with one sentence. You can write a list of what you did the day before.
Yes,
It could be
one of my favorite things is journal prompts. There's thousands of them. You can Google them. You can even use ChatGPT if you're ChatGPT savvy. You can ask for very specific prompts, whether it's for healing or building self-confidence or helping you with that mom guilt. There's prompts that are like sentence stems that you can just answer to help get those gears going and help you get started to write a little bit. And just a reminder, like journaling doesn't have to be like a 20-minute session either. I mean, you can sit down and just jot down a few things you're grateful for that day, right? It's all about being present and looking at like focusing on like some of the good stuff too sometimes. But you can just sit down and just do a couple of minutes. And if you don't like to write, do it on your computer, or you could even do it on your phone if you don't want to do voice notes in your phone, right? You have to kind of like what you said before, everyone's different. So you have to find what works for you so that because that's going to help you stay consistent.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't have to look like one thing. You brought up gratitude. I have actually a free digital gratitude journal for anyone who's looking to kind of jumpstart this process. There's a link in my bio to get it. It's really simple. Gratitude and practicing gratitude has been scientifically proven to build resilience, which is the muscle you need to build up and exercise for life in general, but especially when you're going through a big life transition like a divorce. I also love that you talked about kind of breathing, to be able to kind of sit with how you're feeling, to ground yourself in your body. I know that for a lot of people, they might just be like, oh, this is so crunchy, woo woo. It's not woo woo. These are journaling, practicing gratitude, mindful breathing. These are things that have been around for centuries. They just have. You look back, I've done a lot of reading on Stoicism or Jungian philosophies. They're giving us the groundwork. I've even the Toltec, the Four Agreements of the Toltec. Every culture is trying to give us these same tools to be able to. It's like an owner's manual for your body. That is, once that you kind of get these habits that are foundational as a part of your routine. I love that you said that. It's also like it's mirroring how you began the answer, which is you need to kind of carve out this time for yourself. And it might not seem easy at first, especially if you've been putting yourself second, third, fourth, 20 on the list of your life. But this is about retraining your brain. This is about kind of taking control over your future and what you want your life to look like by setting really healthy habits at this point in time.
Yeah.
And don't think that just because maybe I haven't journaled before, that's not going to be for me. As you said, I loved that tip of ChatGPT prompts. I'm going through this. What are some good journal prompts for me to do over the next 5 days?
Yeah.
Like start.
I mean, yeah, they could give you 100 of them. I mean, it's really great tool. Again, it's a free tool, AI, to help you with things like that. But yeah, because at the end of the day, it's all perspective, right? When you're going through a divorce, it feels like everything's falling apart. It feels like now you're behind, you know, compared to all of your friends that you're seeing on social media, or you destroyed your family and you're messing up your kids. And will I survive on my own? Can I financially do this? There's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, there are absolutely still things that you do have and that are still working out well for you, that you can be grateful for, and that if you didn't have, would make the situation so much worse. So practicing gratitude helps you start focusing on those things, the things that you still do have that you're grateful for, and things you can look forward to, as opposed to looking at everything that's going wrong. And when you are doing that, it shifts you from that lack mindset to abundance, and that's what's going to give you different results. When you're focusing on things like that, then you're going to start making decisions from a different place, instead of focusing on that place of fear and lack and stress and anxiety.
Well, Trisha dropped in. As a single full-time mom of two, I've been down this path and it's challenging, but it is worth it. Thank you so much for dropping that comment. I also got, I'm a divorced dad dealing with a very toxic ex-wife who has weaponized our children. I would love to share, you know, would women be open to hearing men's story? I think the answer is a resounding yes, of course. You've even got a men's group that you've been working with on and off, depending on the time of year, right?
Yeah, so actually, I don't know if you've joined it, but if you're not, it's called the Men's Divorce Circle. It's a free private support group for men. A lot of dads are in there. So if you're looking for a place where you can get support and ask questions, that's definitely a great group for you.
Mm-hmm. That's a great tip. Thank you so much. I also, what do you think? What are your thoughts on why is it so hard for mom to prioritize their needs? Is it time? Is it society? What is it that makes it so hard?
I think it's because we've been raised in a society that teaches women to not put themselves first. We've been taught that we are the ones to take care of everyone else and make sure everyone has what they need, and you know, kind of don't rock the boat, be quiet, be a good girl. You know, this is a lot of the things that we've grown up with. And so as a society, a lot of times I think we just have so much pressure on ourselves to, when we have kids, they have to be 100%. The kids have to be, that is what you sacrifice everything for, is your children. And I just don't believe that that's true. Again, going back to kind of what we talked about, if you're sacrificing your health and your happiness and your well-being, there's no way that your kids are getting the best version of you. And again, you're not setting a good example. You're showing them that then when they grow up and they have kids, well, everything that they ever wanted, that's got to go down the toilet, right? Because now 100% of your life has to be dedicated to your kids. I just don't believe that. And so I think it's, again, that mindset shift of, it's okay to take care of yourself. It's okay to want things and to give yourself the things that you want. It's okay to learn how to meet your own needs and touch, you know, get more in touch with that and your intuition and all of that stuff. Because I mean, I can tell you from personal experience, like I remember in my marriages, when before I learned any of this stuff, right? I was never putting myself first, and it showed in the way that I parented. And so since my divorce, and since I've learned to get to know myself and to find fulfillment and to have creative outlets and hobbies and things like that and become more well-rounded, I show up as a more confident, a stronger, I have more patience. I show up as just a better example for my daughter. I show up as a better version of a mom. Now my daughter gets a happy, healthy, fulfilled, well-rounded mom. And that's, a completely different version of me than she had gotten
Oh,
before.
I love that. Absolutely. The headline on this is also how you treat yourself shows people how to treat you. Okay.
Yes.
Let's just full stop.
Yeah.
So if you're not taking that time to fill your own vessel, if you're not taking that time to find things that excite you, whether it's something as simple as I'm going to take up crocheting to I'm going to join a book club to I'm going to maybe just take a walk today,
Yeah.
whatever that means to you, all of those like small steps have a big ripple effect in your
Yes.
self, in your narrative, in how you show up in the world, and you are setting an example specifically for those kids of where's my value, what am I supposed to be doing. I actually heard this, like I listened to this great episode of how to F word your brain, that was over responsibility and how we've been programmed, in that way. It's a quick one for people interested. You can find it on all your favorite podcast carriers, but that's another good one to listen to. I know we've already like blown by our 20-minute goal of chat, but I would love to just kind of like wrap things up with one more question.
Sure.
I'd love for you to kind of, Leah Marie, before I do that, can you tell people if they're interested in finding you or working with you, how they can best do that?
Yeah. So you can either go to mindfullyready.com, or I'm on all the socials: Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, and my handle is at mindfullyready.
And I'll be tagging Leah Marie in this conversation immediately after when it posts. We've actually got a few other conversations we've had that are available on my blog under interviews. Quite a few. I cherish these conversations we have. You always are so generous with your time and knowledge. Thank you. And just as one last kind of question to wrap things up, what's one of the most common mistakes that you see moms that make during or after divorce that really sets them back, but if maybe we're talking about it, can really be easily avoided?
I would say dating too soon.
Oh,
Yeah. Like getting into a relationship too soon. I've been there. I've done it,
me too.
Yeah. And I mean, and that's okay. It's okay. It happens. But I would say that you just want to, because really the $1,000,000 question is, well, how do I know when I'm ready? Right. That's something everybody wants to know. And unfortunately there's no like specific formula for that because everyone's different. But what I can tell you is you want to get yourself to a place where you feel whole and happy and fulfilled all by yourself. You don't want to start dating because you feel like you need a relationship in order to feel whole or happy or fulfilled or enough or lovable or anything. Because when you are looking for that external validation to fill some kind of a void, you are more likely to settle. You are not going to have as high standards. You're really not going to have strong deal breakers, because you're going to feel like you are relying on that outcome, right? So if you can get yourself to that good place, when you date, it's going to be a completely different experience. You're going to know what you're looking for. You're going to have strong deal breakers. You're going to have high standards, and you should, because you don't need to settle, right? Because when you're in a good place, you don't need that relationship. If it works out, great, and if it adds value to your life, wonderful. But if it doesn't, you're good on your own.
I think that's a wonderful way to kind of wrap this up. I totally agree. And also, I think it's hard, especially when you're coming out of a long-term relationship. You've been perhaps in a place for a long time where emotionally your needs haven't been met. You haven't been connecting. You haven't been communicating. And intimacy can really be lacking. So to want to have that experience with somebody else, and by the way, I'm just going to say it out loud. When you're coming out of a long-term marriage or even a short-term marriage where you haven't had a fulfilling sex life, let me tell you something. You feel like a teenager again. And like a teenager, you can get really overwhelmed and led by the hormonal aspect of the process.
Yes, yes.
Dating for a while because you've been married, you can forget that there are different stages. So if you don't have a good handle on where you are, if you don't feel like very clear on what your intentions are when it comes dating, then it's going to be a much messier situation. Not only are you going to hurt yourself, you could hurt somebody else out there. You know what I mean? So you really want to be mindful of it. I did that, and it pains me deeply to have hurt somebody in that way. I was very fortunate that I kind of got the opportunity to take accountability for that. But I know it's exciting. I know you're eager. Just take the time and put it in yourself first.
Yes.
You can make out with them. It's fine. But
Yeah. 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 Agreed.
well, Leah Marie, thank you so much.